All right, guys. Today we're going to be talking about how to properly configure a OpenAI module in Make.com. Um, this also works for non-Make.com AI API usage. For example, if you're using N8N, you're still going to want to configure your OpenAI in this sort of pattern of alternating roles that I'm going to show you. So this is the foundation of the pattern right here. I can continue to add on assistant and user roles, but basically the pattern is developer and system right at the start, a user, an assistant, and a user. You always have to alternate between the user and assistant roles. Um, the reason being is that the user role is basically when you're expecting an output from ChatGPT. And when you have an assistant role directly after a user, the assistant role is basically you replicating what a good response would be. So when you're using non API ChatGPT and you're just in a chat like this, when you're actually talking to ChatGPT in this chat right here, that is like a user role. So, for example, name me 5 countries in South America. So that statement right here, this is a user prompt in the API terminology, and this output is the assistant. So you can't end in an assistant prompt because you're not going to get an output because the output's already there. And the reason that you have these assistant roles is because you can actually go in and define what a proper output is so that the AI actually has some knowledge on what sort of output you're looking for here. And you can continue to add on to this. So this is just the foundation of the pattern right here where you're starting with the developer and system. You always want to start there. And then the user, assistant, user. And then you can continue to add on assistant, user, assistant, user. So if we look at what I have written in here with the developer and system role here, you're actually just defining what the role of the AI is going to be. So it can be as basic as, for example, if I always wanted an AI to name countries, I could say, hey, you define country names. That's going to be sufficient. You can add a little bit more than that. You don't want too much in this text content here. And then directly after the developer and system, you want to go directly to a user. And the user prompt is basically where you're going to be giving it more rules and defining more about what it's going to do. And if you have an assistant after, you actually want to kind of create a fake input to get your fake output, which is the example that I'm looking for, if that makes sense. So in the user prompt here, I said, output a JSON array of objects in that specific format, gave the rules, here's the base URL, and the number of pages that I want. And then I gave what the correct output would be in the assistant role. And I can't end on an assistant role because I'm not asking for an output. It would error in that case. And then I hop right into the next user. Here's the base URL, the number of pages. So as you can see, this input right here is the exact same as my user input from message number 2. Right here, the same, except instead of having the dynamic insertion down here where it's going to be pulling from these Google Sheets, I actually put in like some fake data here and defined what a good output would be in the assistant. And I can continue to add on assistant user after this. It probably would be a good thing up to a certain point. you definitely want to have a couple examples in there. I think a good range would be another 2 assistant users. Um, but you don't want too many because the more text that you're providing the AI, the more tokens, the more input tokens you're using. Therefore, the more expensive it's going to be. So if this was helpful, let me know. And if you have any questions, comment in the chat. I'll get back to you. I appreciate you watching this, and I'll see you next time.